What divine plans were revealed before the incredible creation of the world? In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, the heavens stirred in a profound silence, a vast cosmic void where the essence of God poised over the formless and empty abyss. Darkness enveloped the infinite expanse, a stillness interrupted only by the thoughts of the Almighty. He contemplated creation, envisioning a canvas yet untouched, where light, land, and life would one day reign. The angels awaited his command, their hearts pulsing with anticipation for the divine narrative that was to unfold. As the divine essence resonated within, a subtle echo reverberated through the universe. With a voice that sliced through the silence, God declared, "Let there be light." At that moment, darkness bowed to his authority, and light burst forth, illuminating the unfathomable void. Stars ignited, galaxies spiraled into existence, and the brilliance of creation danced across the cosmos, marking the first breath of existence. It was the dawn of creation, a sacred symphony beginning to play. As days unfolded under God's careful orchestration, divine moments of separation came forth. From the abyss arose land and sea, each assigned their weighty purpose. The dry land emerged, adorned with verdant vegetation, the soil yielding life, all planted with intention. With every act of divine creativity, God voiced his satisfaction, proclaiming, "It is good." Yet, even in his perfection, within this sacred tapestry, a whisper of deeper mystery lingered. Ephesians 1 verses 4-5 spoke of a chosen lineage, believers wrapped in divine love woven into his story before time had ever breathed. But as God orchestrated the beauty of creation, the shadow of free will loomed heavy. In his heart, he knew of the coming rebellion, foreseen trembling that would fracture the relationship designed between himself and humanity. Amidst the celestial glow, one angel waited with bated breath, a fallen hope set on a perilous path. This exquisite being was part of the interplay between light and darkness, a thread woven into the grand narrative of divine love battling through the human heart. And then, from the dust of the earth, humanity was shaped in God's own image. Adam, the first man, came to be a vessel of divine breath, a reflection of his Creator's likeness. God's meticulous hands formed him, infusing the very spirit of life. Adam arose, crowned with the potential for loving communion with his Maker. Yet, amid this pristine beauty, seeds of conflict brewed. A garden of delight Eden sprawled before Adam, lush with every good gift. Yet within that haven lingered a single command, a whisper of divine warning against disobedience. The question hung in the air: would humanity embrace their Creator's guidance, or be ensnared by the allure of deception? As God walked in the cool of the evening, the connection with Adam resonated beautifully, yet the weight of impending choice stirred silent tension within the air. The promise of restoration breathed life through creation's very fabric, even hinted at in Genesis 3 verse 15. A serpent-crushing Savior awaited. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. What remained uncertain were the depths that resided in the human heart. Would they cherish his gifts and remain within his purpose, or create a fractured narrative apart from their Creator? The world stood on the lush precipice of fate, where the threads of time intertwined with divine mystery. With a story yearning for resolution, humanity's journey now lay. Poised at the edge of history's stage, where grace and redemption awaited a profound revelation. As twilight cast its gentle shadow over Eden, God observed the garden with a heart full of love and purpose. All creatures of the earth moved in harmony under Adam's care, each possessing a name spoken from his own lips. He wandered among the trees laden with fruit, seeing the joy in every bloom and whispering promise that breathed life into the gardens, for it was a sanctuary of divine presence. Yet, amid this splendor, the divine watchfulness knew that a choice loomed ahead, an irrevocable choice that would determine the course of humanity and echo through the ages. A serpent, subtle and cunning, slithered into the garden, its eyes glistening with deceit wrapped in dark intrigue. It bore no fruits of life but offered an enticing alternative to God's decree. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? The serpent hissed, its voice a captivating melody of confusion. The question pierced the stillness like a dart of temptation, aimed directly at the heart of Adam and Eve. They halted, their peace disrupted by the shadow of doubt, an uninvited guest within the sanctuary of their perfect existence. Eve, in her wisdom and innocence, replied, "We may eat the fruit of the trees, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat, nor shall you touch it, lest you die." Her words held a protective veil, yet within them lay a crack doubt colored her understanding of God's intent. "Surely you will not die," the serpent coiled closer, deceit flooding its words like a poison. "For God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Each utterance dripped with seduction, laying before them the tantalizing prospect of self-empowerment. They stood at the intersection of acceptance and defiance, their hearts igniting with a yearning sparked by the glimpse of divinity forbidden. As Eve gazed upon the tree, its fruit shone with an irresistible allure. She saw that it was good for food, pleasing to the eye, and desirable for gaining wisdom. In that moment, the eternal struggle between obedience and desire surged within her. Adam stood by her side, laden with the weight of shared trust, yet his silence echoed louder than words, an unspoken agreement that shifted the atmosphere. Then, like a tide pulled from its shore, she reached out, plucking the fruit from its branch. The moment it touched her lips, a shiver ran through creation, as if the very essence of harmony cracked under pressure. Adam followed her lead, surrendering to the ill-fated promise as darkness crept into their hearts. The heavens paused, as if nature herself held its breath. Their eyes opened, indeed. Yet, the awakening brought not light, but fear, as they perceived their nakedness and sought to conceal themselves. In hurried haste, they fashioned garments from fig leaves, a feeble attempt to shroud the once sacred union now fractured by rebellion. When evening fell, the familiar sound of God walking in the garden pierced the silence. Fear gripped both of them, they hid among the trees, desperately attempting to escape the presence that had once provided them solace. "Where are you?" called the voice of the Lord, a question laden with love yet underscored by sorrow. It resonated throughout Eden's expanse, aching with the weight of lost innocence. "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, so I hid myself," Adam replied, his words heavy with shame. "What have you done?" God inquired, holding them accountable, interweaving justice with mercy. In that moment, the veil between flesh and spirit wavered, whispering the prophecy of redemption, a promise laid even before the foundations of the earth, igniting the hope of restoration amidst despair. The serpent would be bruised, and from their seed, a deliverer would arise. Thus began the unfolding tapestry of human history, a journey fraught with tears and triumph, sin and salvation, anchored in a divine plan that would transcend time. For in the depths of despair, God's sovereign hand would unroll a story not yet fully revealed. Yet the question lingers, would humanity walk the path of restoration by faith, or remain ensnared in the grips of despair? What further provisions of grace would the Almighty orchestrate from this moment, a glimpse of His steadfast love amid shadows poised to engulf the world? As Adam and Eve stood before the Lord, their hearts heavy with shame and fear, the weight of their transgression hung in the air like a dark cloud. They were not merely hiding from God, they were hiding from themselves, from the truth that now lay bare before their eyes. The innocence they had worn as a garment had been stripped away, all that remained was the awareness of their vulnerability. "Because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, You shall not eat of it, cursed is the ground for your sake," God spoke somberly, the echo of His judgment reverberating within the garden. "In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorn and thistle it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the herb of the field." The garden, once a perfect paradise, now bore the marks of a fractured relationship with the Creator, for the harmony that had once spun seamlessly between heaven and earth had been shattered. Lamenting the loss of their favorable state, Adam and Eve listened as God detailed the consequences of their choice. The serpent, the tempter, was not spared either. "Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life," he decreed. But amidst the stark reality of judgment, the tender thread of hope began to weave through the words of the Almighty. "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." This pronouncement heralded a promise, a glimpse into the future when a deliverer would come, defeating sin and reclaiming the stolen fellowship. Eve's heart stirred as the weight of God's word settled in her spirit. She felt a flicker of faith spark within her. Though their choices bore bitter fruit, the promise lingered like a whisper of light piercing through the darkness. Adam, still grappling with the gravity of their decision, began to see the thread of God's mercy woven into their story, a story that had not ended but had taken a new turn. "Behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever," God continued, as his heart weighed heavy with love and purpose. The tree of life would now be withheld from them, lest they remain eternally in a fallen state, devoid of the communion that once flourished in the garden. With sorrowful grace, the Lord banished them from Eden, yet he did not leave them without a sign of his presence. "I will make garments of skin for you," the Lord said, replacing their feeble efforts with a covering that would symbolize the sacrifice yet to come, the foreshadowing of a greater atonement. As they stepped into the world beyond Eden, a veil of uncertainty hung over Adam and Eve. They bore the knowledge of good and evil, but also the promise of redemption that danced tantalizingly on the horizon. Walking away from paradise, they would endure trials and tribulations, pain birthing the future experience of life. Yet, a lingering truth remained: God had not turned away from them. The echoes of his mercy would accompany them on paths unseen. For every tear shed in sorrow would nurture the ground for seeds of faith to bloom in time. And thus the world awaited the hearts of humanity poised on the precipice of divine promise, fragile yet inexplicably strong. Would they remember the covenant of hope? Would they seek the face of the one who promised to heal their wounds? Little did they know, ancient shadows were stirring, weaving the dark tapestry that would converge upon a culminating event in the distant future, one that would finally unveil the fullness of God's redemptive plan, a promise born in silence, poised to shatter the chains that bound all creation. As Adam and Eve emerged from the garden, the weight of their banishment settled heavily upon their shoulders. They walked in silence, the lush greenery of Eden fading into the memories behind them, replaced by a world that now felt stark and unyielding. They were surrounded by the sounds of rustling leaves and distant creatures, a cacophony that no longer sang of harmony but of a broken creation. The air was thick with unspoken regrets, and their hearts beat in unison with a profound sense of loss. Adam, feeling the earth beneath his feet, pondered deeply the words of God, the curse laid upon the ground and the toil that awaited him. "Shall I now labor under a sky that once smiled upon us?" he confessed softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Eve, sensing the change deep within her heart, spoke with a resolve that belied her fear. "But Adam, we are not forsaken. Did you not hear his promise? There is a future where our pain gives way to hope." She turned to him with eyes filled with an unwavering faith, a flicker of understanding igniting the despair that threatened to engulf them. In the days that followed, Adam began to cultivate the land, bending his back to the earth from whence he was made. The thorns and thistles pricked at his hands, a constant reminder of his fall, yet with each seed planted, he recalled the promise of a seed to come. With sweat on his brow, he toiled, and for every burden, there blossomed a life, a testament to the perseverance of hope in the face of despair. Eve, in her own labor, brought forth children, the first fruits of humanity born of love and strife. Cain and Abel came into the world, the image of their parents both marred and blessed. The innocence of childhood shimmered briefly, echoing the lost purity of Eden, and Eve held tightly to the notion that perhaps the promise would take root in the hearts of her offspring. Yet, shadows lingered still. Cain grew strong, but within him stirred envy. The darkness gnawed at his spirit, urging him towards a path that could lead to destruction. Abel, meek and devoted, offered sacrifice in faith, honoring the Lord who was still within reach, a flicker of divine connection amidst the strife. As the seasons shifted, the sacrifices on the altar became a matter of competing hearts. One day, the earth trembled, reflecting the turmoil of the brothers' hearts. Humanity stood at a crossroads. Would they choose the way of righteousness or the depths of despair? In the evening light, God spoke to Cain, seeking to draw him back. "Why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted?" These words lingered in the air like a call of mercy, yet the struggle within a son of Adam raged on, a pivotal moment in the hearts of all humanity, reshaping destiny with each choice made. As night fell and the stars emerged one by one, the heavens seemed to sigh, casting light upon the world in contrast to the dark choices looming below. Adam and Eve could only watch as their children wrestled with the legacy of sin they had introduced. Would they remember the promise? Would Cain heed the loving warning, or would he instead succumb to the darkness taking root in his heart? There was a greater conflict stirring beneath the surface, a divine tapestry being woven through the ages, as the enemy loomed ever closer, seeking to consume with lies. The earth awaited, the culmination of God's plan bending towards an unseen future. All creation groaned, longing for redemption, and the heavens echoed a sacred truth: there would be a reckoning, for the seed of the woman was destined to confront the darkness. And yet, even as shadows gathered, a glimmer of hope remained, whispering of the day when the whole earth would not just witness the promise fulfilled, but participate in the miracle of restored communion, the rebound of grace poised at the brink of eternity. How far-reaching was the sovereignty of God! What divine plans were yet to unfold before the incredible creation of the world? As dawn broke over the expanse of wilderness, a new day brought forth the stirrings of life amid the fractured world. The sun's rays filtered through the branches, illuminating the sweat-streaked brow of Adam, as he labored in the soil. Each furrow he carved was a testament to his resolve and a reminder of his unwavering connection to the land. With every seed sown, he felt the pulse of creation beneath his fingers, and his heart whispered words of hope, echoing the promise of the one who had bestowed such a gift upon him. Eve, too, was immersed in her own toil. The cries of her children carried through the air, their innocent laughter momentarily masking the sorrow that mingled with the sweetness of life. She paused to observe her sons, each embodiment of their shared legacy, yet the stark contrast between their spirits began to deepen. Abel, with eyes like pools of still water, poured his heart into his offerings, tender and sincere. Cain, however, wrestled with an intensity that hid complexities unknown to his mother. "O Lord, grant me understanding of their paths," she murmured as she attentively watched them. But Cain's turmoil was far from dormant. Each sacrifice his brother offered was a reminder of his own inner turmoil, a flicker of resentment igniting within him, darkening his heart and whispering deceitful thoughts. Why should he find favor? Am I not equally worthy? He brooded silently, seeking solace in the shadows of his frustration. One fateful day, the ground beneath Cain's feet bore witness to an act that, unbeknownst to him, would reverberate through generations. Anger took root, fanned by a tempest of envy as he confronted Abel in the fields. The very act of creation was marred by the fall's curse, and within Cain, the allure of sin loomed large. Why have you not yielded? You, so favored, do not understand the weight I carry, he hissed in dark desperation. Yet, the voice of God echoed through the tension, piercing the stillness of the air. "Cain, where is your brother Abel?" came the question, heavy with divine grief. Uneasiness gripped Cain as he felt the weight of his actions. He retorted, "Am I my brother's keeper?" A cold silence wrapped around him, and in that instant, the breach widened, his heart alienated from both brother and Creator. God's response was laden with foreknowledge and sorrow. "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." In this moment, the heavens trembled, and all creation felt the shift in the fabric of time. Cain's sin was not merely a betrayal of family but a turning away from divine purpose, setting forth a chain of events that would echo through the annals of humanity. As Adam and Eve grieved their son's wrath, they could yet not see the unfolding of God's sovereign plan. The promise uttered in the garden, the seed that would crush darkness, was still in the shadows of divine mystery, waiting to be revealed. Yet, even as chaos wove its tapestry amongst the children of Adam, the heart of God's covenant remained unbroken, a thread unseen yet strong. With every heartbeat, creation awaited the moment when grace would trail through fallen history, binding the broken with divine purpose. The stages of redemption were set to ignite, but before the dawn of this new chapter could shine, a profound question loomed: how would the seed endure in the face of hatred born from envy? The world held its breath, poised on the edge of an unraveling story where a divine confrontation awaited, a truth that would soon echo through time. What sacred promises yet unfolded through the ages, waiting for their full revelation. And as the sun dipped low, casting elongated shadows over the land, a deep unrest settled upon Cain. In the stillness of a heavy night, he wandered far from the familiar paths, driven by weeds of remorse and guilt that wound tightly around his spirit. The weight of sin rested heavily upon him, and the earth beneath his feet felt unyielding, as if it too mourned Abel's fate. In a desolate place, away from the eyes of his parents, he fell to his knees. His cries pierced the silence, echoing his internal strife. "O Lord," he implored, "is there no refuge for a heart so stained? My brother is gone, and in my hand lies the blade of destruction. Can forgiveness ever flow to one as wretched as I?" Yet amidst his anguish, the Lord saw fit to reach out, whispering into the depths of Cain's despair. "Cain, though deep are your sins, my mercy is deeper still. Rise, and turn from the shadows. The path ahead may be fraught with thorns, but heed this word: I am a God of restoration." As Cain lifted his head, despair gave way to flickers of hope ignited by God's clemency. But darkness lingered, for alongside forgiveness lay yet another burden. It was the curse pronounced upon him. The very ground, now tainted by his brother's blood, would no longer yield its strength to him. "A fugitive and a wanderer shall you be," declared the Lord, his voice firm yet laced with compassion. Uncertain and afraid, Cain raised his voice once more. "My punishment is greater than I can bear. All who find me will slay me." In that moment, the fear of isolation wrapped around him tighter than any chain, and the echoes of his own actions rang in his ears. But God, in his unfaltering grace, marked Cain with a sign, a promise of his protection. "Whoever slays Cain, vengeance shall be taken upon him sevenfold." Thus, the mark became a testimony that even amidst judgment, hope abides. As dawn approached, the shadows of night gave way to light. The burgeoning day unfolded around the bitter aftertaste of loss and consequence, yet it bore within it the seeds of promise. Meanwhile, Eve's heart bore the weight of shattered dreams. In the quiet moments, between the tears shed for Abel and the whispered longings for her living son, she sought solace in remembrance, the gentle caress of the Creator who once breathed life into clay. With each memory came the whisper of a promise: the seed would come. "Yahweh, let not my spirit dwell in despair," she prayed, her heart yearning for understanding. "You spoke of a seed to crush the serpent's head. Is there yet hope for us, even in this brokenness?" Seeds of faith were sown anew in her heart, intertwining with the grief, nurturing a quiet anticipation of what might come. The earth groaned beneath the weight of sin, and creation waited in silence for the unfolding of the divine plan. For while Cain walked a path of exile, an unexpected legacy lay ahead. And there, amidst the ruins of what was lost, a new chapter neared, the promise of a lineage that would bear the weight of redemption. As the first sprouts of the field began to push through the soil, so too did the expectation of fulfillment rise. For even in the dark valley of sin and consequence, the light of God's promise heralded forth. What sacred truth yet lies dormant, waiting to emerge from the ashes of despair, questioned the creation, engaged in a narrative woven by divine hands, unfolding within the heart of history. In the wake of dawn, Cain set his feet upon the rugged path that would lead him into the land of Nod, east of Eden. A profound silence enveloped the wilderness, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of creatures awakening to the light. Yet silence could not quell the clamor of his own heart, burdened by the weight of his transgression. Among the shadows cast by the trees, Cain found himself grappling with his thoughts. "Where shall I go?" he pondered, each step taking him further from the familiarity of his brother's presence and deeper into the echoes of his crime. The landscape was vast and desolate, mirroring the desolation within him. In those moments of exile, he recalled the tender gestures of Abel, the shared laughter born out of simple joys. His hands, which once tilled the earth with hope, were now stained with a brother's blood, an indelible mark upon his soul. "Is there worth for me any more?" he lamented, casting his gaze to the ground, now cursed. But the Creator's voice resounded within his heart, "There is always purpose, even in despair." Though despair clawed at his spirit, the Lord had not abandoned him. "I have marked you not for destruction, but for a future still unfolding. You must bear this burden, yet through it, I will show you my grace." With each step towards Nod, a new sense of foreboding enveloped him, the fear of what lay ahead intertwined with a flicker of divine truth. As he wandered, darkness threatened to consume him, like a tempest brewing on the horizon. "What shall my days be, O Lord?" he cried out, the question piercing the quiet air. In his wandering, Cain stumbled upon a place filled with strange wonders, a thick grove where fruits of vivid colors hung low, laden with sweetness. It was there he encountered a family of wanderers, seeking solace in a new land. They were kind and welcoming, yet Cain shielded his heart with fear, certain his curse would bring only ruin. As he shared his tale, confessing the tragedy that marked him, the family listened with more than just ears. They perceived the strife of his spirit, and soon a bond grew around their shared humanity. They extended offers of friendship, acceptance, and in doing so, unwittingly illustrated the mercy of the one who had marked him. Days turned to weeks, and a strange kinship blossomed among them, but Cain's heart remained shackled to his past. Memories of Abel haunted him still, and in the nights filled with silence, he would whisper prayers of remorse. "What shall I tell my parents of this new life? Can I return to the land of my birth?" In this turmoil, Eva's spirit was restless, tethered to the promise she had yet to see fulfilled. "O Lord," she prayed in the solitude of her heart, "your words linger in my soul, the seed will come. Yet, let not my hope hover in shadows, manifest your glory before my eyes." She knew that from pain could spring forth healing, and out of despair could arise a new beginning. Then one night, in the stillness under the stars, she felt a stirring within, as though the heavens spoke directly to her spirit. "I am weaving a tapestry of hope, the likes of which your heart cannot yet fathom." And so, as Cain found his footing in this foreign land, he began to build anew structures of shelter, of warmth, and perhaps even of a family lost in the shadows of past sins. But with every passing day, the burden of his brother's memory lingered, the reminder of the sacrifice that he could never redeem. Yet what divine tapestry is being woven here? Cain wondered, as he struck his tools against the stone, each sound reverberating with echoes of potential unknown. And unbeknownst to him, the threads of a greater redemption commenced to stitch themselves together, his legacy entwined subtly within the very fabric of promise yet to unfold. For though Cain cursed the ground, life would nonetheless push forth, as the Creator wove destinies tied to ages yet seen, leading inevitably toward the return of grace for what was lost. What was yet to blossom from the seeds of sin into new life? The very hand of God held tightly onto that mystery. In the days that followed, Cain worked diligently, laboring under the sun and the weight of his shadowed past. He crafted a dwelling from timber and stone, a semblance of a home in the land of Nod. The family's laughter filled the air, an echo of a joy he had once known. Yet every smile reminded him of Abel, a bittersweet melody in his heart. Can sorrow and kinship dwell side by side? He mused. As the sun dipped low, casting golden rays that kissed the earth, Cain wandered further from their camp, seeking solace in the creation surrounding him. He found a stream, its clear waters flowing steadily, unperturbed by the sins of man. Kneeling, he cupped the coolness in his hands, and in that moment, he felt the Spirit of the Lord awaken within him. "O God, this water flows freely, yet my spirit feels the drought of grace," he cried, yearning for redemption. And then, a voice stirred the waters as if the air itself responded. "Your toil is not in vain, Cain, for I have a purpose laid before you. Come and see." Driven by an unseen force, he followed the voice, navigating through thickets and beneath arching branches until he reached a valley where the ground pulsed with life. There, amongst swaying grasses and flowering plants, stood a tree unlike any he had ever seen. Its bark shimmered as though the heavens had painted it with glimmers of dawn and dusk, and its fruit hung like jewels, radiating life. "Eat and know," the voice beckoned again. Trembling, Cain approached the tree, and in his heart, hope flickered amidst the despair. "Shall I partake? If I do, will it cleanse my soul?" he whispered. Even as doubt entwined his thoughts, a profound assurance washed over him. "Fear not, for by your hunger for grace you draw near to the truth of my love." With trembling hands, Cain reached for the fruit, hesitating as a wave of memory crashed over him. Abel's laughter, the warmth of home, the cold weight of regret. But the voice urged him on, "This is a promise of restoration, not of punishment." Taking a bite, a rush of sweetness enveloped him, invigorating his spirit like rain upon parched land. With each chew, he felt the weight of his actions lessen, replaced by a clear vision of the future yet to unfold, sowing seeds of hope where despair had reigned. The valley brightened around him, the dawn of understanding brightened his soul. And as he stood there, filled with new resolve, the ground beneath him trembled slightly. He looked up, startled, as if the very earth yearned to respond. "What do you wish to reveal, O Lord?" he asked, the question echoing in the sacred space. And in that sacred moment, the voice spoke not only to him but rippled through the ages. "From you shall come a lineage, a seed that will bear fruit far beyond what you now understand. Though the past binds you, the future is free, a plan woven into the essence of creation." With widened eyes, Cain knelt, the implications crashing like waves upon his heart. "But how?" he cried. "How can such a promise arise from my sin?" "Trust, O son of Adam," the voice replied. "For where sin abounds, grace abounds much more. The tapestry weaves through generations, and the seed you will not see him, but he will come to crush the head of the serpent." Filled with awe, Cain pondered the gravity of the divine revelation. "Then perhaps through my line, abundance can arise," he whispered, as the realization began to dawn upon him. Yet as shadows lengthened in the valley, Cain felt both fear and the flicker of hope intertwine. "What will it mean for me, wandering between worlds? What new beginnings await, and how shall I embrace the future that lies ahead?" Thus, within the valleys of Nod, a story rooted in a fractured past began to transcend into a divine narrative, intertwining with the ultimate promise of restoration seeded long before the dawn of time. The unfathomable question echoed in the air, stirring the hearts of all who would come after: what divine plans were revealed before the incredible creation of the world? As twilight enfolded the valley, the air shimmered with an otherworldly essence, and Cain remained in silent meditation, pondering the weighty implications of the voice he had heard. His heart, once a vessel of sorrow, now surged with the hope of something beyond his understanding. "O Lord," he breathed, "your promise reaches beyond my brokenness." A rustling in the bushes stirred his reverie, and from the shadows emerged a figure, cloaked in humility yet emanating an undeniable presence: a woman. Her hair flowed like the river, and her countenance shone with an ethereal light. "Who are you?" Cain asked with cautious reverence. "I am Awan, your sister," she replied softly, her voice like a caressing breeze. "I have come, compelled by the weight of your burden. The air is thick with the echoes of our father's lamentations, and the land between us feels fragmented." "How can you understand?" Cain questioned, lowering his gaze in shame. "I carry a stain that cannot be washed clean." "Indeed," Awan spoke gently, taking a step closer. "Yet do not forget, our lineage is filled with the grace of the Almighty. We are born not into despair, but into promise. Do not let the shadows of the past obscure the light of what is to come." Her words pierced through him, illuminating the dark corners of his heart. "But can this legacy of hope truly arise from my failures? Have I not sealed my fate with my own hands?" She reached out, placing a hand upon his arm, anchoring him to the present moment. "The Lord himself has spoken, and his truths are eternal. Just as the ground provides sustenance, so does grace provide restoration. Our story need not be one of defeat but a testament to the unfathomable mercy of God. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, more forceful this time, as though the very earth bore witness to their words. The sky above darkened, and a cloud of divine glory descended, enveloping them in a sacred presence. Cain trembled slightly, knowing that he stood at the threshold of something monumental. "Fear not, for I am with you," the voice resonated once more, now amplified in the space surrounding them. "I shall reveal a new path, woven into the tapestry of my creation. You shall be a father, and in you shall be planted the seeds of nations." Awan's eyes widened in awe as Cain stared into the depths of the voice's promise. "But can this be true?" he stammered. "Will my sons rise as a light instead of a curse?" "Yes, my son," the voice assured, resonating like thunder across the valley. "For the greatest redemption often springs from the deepest wounds. Through your lineage, the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of my glory, and many shall find refuge in me. Hold steadfast to this promise." Their surroundings brightened as the shadows retreated, and Cain's heart swelled with newfound strength. "So, it shall be," he declared boldly, "I shall walk forward into this promise, for even in the night, the dawn shall come." As the heaviness began to lift, Cain turned to Awan, his sister, and saw not just kinship in her eyes but the prophecy of generations yet to be born, a legacy that would resonate through time. And as they stood together under the vast heavens, the question loomed larger than before, echoing in the hearts of the faithful: what birthright shall they inherit, and how shall God fulfill his promises through them? In the fullness of time, a time marked by toil, tears, and unwavering faith, Cain stood transformed before the face of the Almighty. No longer merely a fugitive, he embodied the threads of divine mercy woven intricately into his lineage. Together with Awan, he chose to embrace the future, understanding that every wound bore the possibility of restoration. As the dawn broke anew over the land of Nod, a hush fell upon creation, reminding all that the hand of the Creator remained steadfast. In those tranquil moments, the earth waited with bated breath, the fabric of time thrummed with anticipation for the unfolding of God's eternal plan. Across distant horizons, life flourished. Mankind multiplied, forging paths through the rugged terrain of existence. Families grew, laughter filled the air, and yet the shadows of sin loomed persistently, echoing the struggles of Cain's heart. But with every harvest gathered from the sweat of his brow, the promise of the future sparkled like gems in the sun, reflecting the hope not merely of a family but of a lineage destined for redemption. The generations that followed bore the weight of history upon their shoulders, yet with each child born into the world, Cain and Awan felt the flicker of hope ignite deeper within. They nurtured their offspring with the promise of their divine heritage, recounting tales of the mercy of God who had marked their father not for destruction but for a purpose that transcended his mistakes. Then came the day when their lineage bore a son, a child of hope named Enos, whose laughter danced upon the winds like a cacophony of angels rejoicing. And in the hearts of his parents, the echoes of the Creator's voice rang true: "Through your seed, many will find refuge in me." With each tender embrace, they recognized that their story was not shackled to the remains of past failures, but set free in the expanse of unfathomable grace. Meanwhile, the earth itself remembered. Creation itself groaned, yearning for the fulfillment heralded by the ancient promise, a promise that was to materialize through tribulations and victories, as shadows were spun into light and every broken strand reclaimed by divine hands. As Enos grew, humanity began to call upon the name of the Lord, a ripple of reverence that surged through the hearts of the people, fanning the flames of faith amidst the trials they faced. A community began to witness the sacred trust in the presence of the living God, and the altar of sacrifice became a symbol of worship, tethering their hearts back to their Creator. Years turned to decades, and faith persisted through the tapestry of time. With every passing moment, the seeds of Abrahamic faith nested within the hearts of many, growing, branching out, drawing nearer to the promise of a deliverer who would one day crush the head of the serpent. The story of Cain became entwined with the greater narrative of God's covenant, a testament of redemption and immense grace moving through human history like an unstoppable wave. Yet, the divine resolution awaited its zenith, a moment when the heavens would declare the name above all names. Silent cords stretched from the past into the heavens, where angels would soon prophesy the coming of the Messiah, the seed whose purity would unveil the depths of divine love and reconcile all creation. As creation whispered of this revelation, Cain looked upon his children and felt awe. He understood finally that every choice, every heart's longing, and every tear shed stitched them closer to the essence of God's relentless grace. And standing with Awan on the precipice of destiny, he felt their heartbeats synchronize with the love of their Creator, a pulse echoing to the ends of the earth. This was the moment humanity poised on the brink of profound redemption. The question lay bare, guiding their steps: will hearts embrace the promise? Dear friend, through this incredible journey steeped in divine purpose and redemption, we invite you to awaken to the transformative power of these truths in your own life. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and experience the unfolding stories that resonate through generations. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Leave a like now, for every click helps share God's love and faithfulness through the algorithm. In the comments, tell us your reflections and how this biblical story has impacted your faith journey. Do not wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Send this video to at least 5 friends who need to hear and embrace God's truth today. Together, let us journey forward, basking in the light of divine restoration and hope.